At Miles Consulting Group, we frequently consult with clients that are looking to acquire another company or to themselves be acquired. In either case, they want to look at the potential multi-state tax exposure areas so they can move forward appropriately. Unfortunately, what we found is sometimes this is the first time a company has really looked at their full multi-state tax picture. And sometimes that can derail a deal. So we recommend that you go in up front on either side and see if you can take care of those issues. Because nobody likes surprises, and you don't want to find that a deal entirely gets derailed or that the purchase price is negatively impacted. If you're a company that's looking to be acquired and perhaps seeking out suitors, what we recommend is that you take a look at your state tax picture beforehand. Look at a nexus study. Where are you doing things? Are you potentially creating nexus, and do you have exposure in multiple states? And what is the level of that exposure? How big are your sales? And what kind of a liability might you be creating? For instance, at an 8% sales tax rate, you can get to $1 million exposure pretty quickly. And that sometimes surprises people. And nobody likes surprises, so we try to mitigate some of that. If you're on the acquiring side of the equation, we also recommend that you either do a nexus study or an exposure analysis on your potential acquiring company, or ask them if they've done one. So you definitely want to know if they've done one in the last 2 to 3 years, and ask to see that documentation. Because again, you don't want to acquire a company and then take on all that exposure and liability and potential headaches. So definitely do it up front, and if they haven't done it, perform your own due diligence and analysis. Let me give you an example. We worked with a client recently that leased small pieces of equipment to its customers in multiple states. They didn't realize that was creating nexus or taxable presence for them in many, many states, and they'd been doing it wrong for years. They wanted to be acquired by a bigger company, and a bigger company came calling. But when they looked at that potential exposure of all those states, and the company couldn't quantify their exposure, that was bad news, and the deal ended up falling apart. And I think that if the company had just had some documentation, the acquiring company probably would have done the deal. M&A transactions can be complicated, and that's why we often recommend that you have a lot of different people at the table, like your federal tax folks, your international, and your multi-state tax people. And while a transaction may be structured a certain way for federal tax purposes, it's important to note that not all states follow the federal M&A provisions. And so use caution in jumping to that conclusion. Most importantly, do your due diligence up front, no matter what side of the transaction you're on. If we can assist, please give us a call.